possibility of parole. In other words, he was never going to be released from prison. In the first 8 months of his prison sentence, he was confined to a specially built suicide cell, which was a lot like solitary confinement. For 10 years, Mark stayed in protective custody until he was moved to a newly built prison nearby. On November 13, 2006, more than 10 years after the massacre, Mark was sent to Hobart's Wilfrid Lopes Center. The Hobart's Wilfrid Lopes Center was a secure mental health facility that was specially built for inmates. The center had 35 beds for inmates with mental health issues of all kinds. The inmates that were staying at the center were monitored and treated like inmates, but they weren't locked down like most prisons and could move freely throughout the center. On March 25, 2007, Mark attempted suicide for the first time by cutting his wrists with a razor blade that he had taken apart. On March 27, 2007, just 2 days later, Mark attempted suicide yet again with a razor blade taken apart. As of 2015, Mark was housed in the maximum security unit at Risdon Prison, and he claims to have no memory of the killings. The Port Arthur massacre brought forth many issues with the gun laws that Australia had that were hidden in plain sight. Because of the massacre, gun laws had to be modified drastically, and the government knew they needed to do something. The government put a nationwide ban on all semi-automatic and automatic firearms. To encourage the citizens to give up their firearms, the federal government paid for a buyback, where the government would buy back all semi-automatic and automatic firearms from the citizens. Over 750,000 guns were bought back by the government. Mark's mother still visits him when she is allowed to. Sometimes Mark refuses to see her when she visits, but he never really gave any sort of reason why. His mom complained that he wasn't being taken care of well while in prison, because he had become overweight due to the medications he was taking, lack of exercise while in prison, and poor nutrition.
Through the medication, which puts weight on, and also lack of exercise.
There were different conspiracies that were erected by people in the community. Some citizens say that it was a government conspiracy and that the massacre was created as an excuse to ban guns. There were also people that argued Mark was never given a fair trial. No fingerprints were taken, and there was no ballistic evidence, while some people believed that it wasn't him at all.
When he was questioned, probably for weeks before I saw him again, he always said he was never in Port Arthur at Broad Arrow. A lot of people on that day came forward after, and they said, as far as they were concerned, they didn't recognise the gunman.
There will always be different theories for each and every shooting that happens in this world. It is up to each and every one of us to take a stand and speak up when we see something. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Active Shooter, the podcast. Remember, if you see something, say something. There's no telling how many lives you may be saving.
A huge thank you to Darren Curtis, who composed some of the music used in this episode. Check him out at darrencurtismusic.com. DARRENCURTIS music.com.
Active shooter. Reports of an active shooter. Active shooter.
Active shooter. Mass casualty incidents.
Make sure to check us out on social media. We have a discussion group on Facebook. Just search for Active Shooter, the podcast discussion group. You can also find us on Instagram at Active the Podcast and Twitter at Podcast Active. For just $1 a month, you can get access to ad-free episodes, early release episodes when available, and a shout-out on the show. Just go to patreon.com/Active the Podcast. Thank you, and be safe.